You've probably seen the news. Someone sitting at a computer, just chatting with ChatGPT, asking it to build me a weather app or create a Twitter clone, and boom, like magic, functional code appears. They hit run, and somehow, there's a working app. These videos get millions of views because they tap into what everyone wants to believe, that in 2025, you don't need to actually learn to code anymore, that you can just vibe with an AI and become a developer overnight. I'm going to break down what vibe coding really is, why it's blowing up right now, and more importantly, why it's potentially sabotaging your chances of making real money in tech. This might be a hard pill to swallow if you've been hoping AI would let you skip the learning curve. But by the end of this video, you'll understand why the developers who are earning six figures aren't vibe coding. They're doing something much more strategic, and I'll share exactly what that is. By the way, if you're serious about breaking into tech and making real money as a developer in 2025, I've put together a detailed breakdown of my AI-proof code to cash system in the description below. It shows exactly how our students are landing six-figure roles at companies like Amex, HSBC, and Accenture by following a completely different approach than what most people are doing. What is vibe coding? The term was coined earlier this year by AI researcher Andrej Karpathy, who described it as fully giving into the vibes, embracing exponentials, and forgetting that the code even exists. In plain English, it's when you rely almost entirely on AI to write your code. You don't understand what the code does, you don't review it line by line, you just describe what you want and let the AI build it for you. It's called vibe coding because you're essentially coding by vibes, by the general feeling of what you want rather than by actually writing or understanding code. Some people even call it tab coding because they're just hitting the accept button on AI suggestions without thinking. And look, I get the appeal. I was 30 years old when I started coding. I was an English teacher with zero technical background. I know how overwhelming it can be to stare at documentation or tutorials thinking, will I ever understand this? AI seems like the perfect shortcut. Why spend months or years learning to code when an AI can do it for you right now? See how easy that looks? I just asked for a simple to-do app with React and boom, it's writing all the code. I didn't have to think about state management, component structure, event handlers. The AI figures it all out. This is why vibe coding has exploded. It feels like a superpower, like we finally democratized programming. Anyone with access to ChatGPT can now code, right? Not exactly. And this is where things get interesting. The problem with vibe coding. Here's the fundamental problem with vibe coding. It creates the illusion of knowledge without the substance. Let me tell you a story from my own career. A few years back, I was working at a software firm where we built a mental health application for a client. The app was successful, and the CEO then asked me to refactor everything so we could turn it into a white label product. Basically, rebuild it so different organizations could use it with their own branding. Now, imagine if I had built that original app through vibe coding. I would have been completely lost when it came to modify it. I wouldn't understand my own code base. I wouldn't know which components did what, how the state management worked, and how to separate features to make them configurable. And this isn't just my perspective. Y Combinator, probably the most influential startup accelerator in the world, recently released a podcast titled Vibe Coding is the Future, where they revealed something fascinating. They said that 25% of companies in their winter 2025 batch had code bases that were about 95% AI generated. But here's what they didn't advertise. Many of these same startups are now struggling massively with debugging, scaling, and maintaining their code. Why? Because no one on the team actually understands what the AI built. This is the first big problem with vibe coding. You end up with code you don't understand, can't debug, and can't extend. It's like having a card where you don't know how to open the hood. Works great until something breaks. But there's a second, even bigger problem. Vibe coding is creating a generation of developers who can't actually code. Imagine you get an interview at a tech company. You've been vibe coding for months, building impressive looking projects, but in the interview, they ask you to explain how your code works or to solve a problem without AI. What happens then? One popular tech YouTuber recently joked, vibe coding is easy, vibe debugging is the hard part. And that's exactly right. The third problem, and this is what most vibe coders don't talk about, is that AI generated code is often inefficient, insecure, and full of subtle bugs. AIs are trained on massive amounts of code from the internet, including outdated practices and insecure patterns. They don't understand security implications or performance optimization. They're just predicting what code should come next based on patterns they've seen. The market reality. So if vibe coding is so problematic, why is everyone talking about it? You see, there are a few reasons, and understanding them will help you see where the real opportunity lies. First, vibe coding taps into a universal desire. Everybody wants a shortcut. Nobody wants to spend years learning to code if they can get the same results in days. It's the same reason get-rich-quick schemes never die. We all want to believe there's an easier way. Second, vibe coding does have legitimate uses. If you're a seasoned developer who understands the fundamentals, using AI to accelerate your workflow can be incredibly powerful. You can focus on architecture and problem solving while the AI handles the boilerplate. This is why experienced devs can actually benefit from AI coding tools. But here's what the market is really telling us in 2025. The divide between low-value and high-value tech workers is growing wider by the day. On one side, you have people who are purely prompt engineers. They know how to talk to AI but don't understand the code it generates. These folks are increasingly competing with, well, everyone else who can chat with an AI, and also competing with the AI themselves, which gets better every month at generating code without human input. On the other side, you have developers who understand how code works at a fundamental level, who can leverage AI as a tool rather than a replacement for knowledge. These people are commanding higher salaries than ever. Look at the data. In 2023, the average junior developer in the US made about 70 grand. In 2025, that average has barely moved, but the variance has exploded. The bottom 50% of junior devs are making around $65,000, while the top 25% are making $120,000 or more. What separates these groups? Understanding the ability to not just generate code, but to evaluate it, improve it, debug it, and explain it. In other words, the market is rewarding people who can do more than just vibe code. The 3 paths forward. So if vibe coding isn't the answer, what is? Based on my experience and what I'm seeing in the industry, there are 3 paths that are actually leading to significant income in tech in 2025. Path number 1, the specialized developer. This isn't about a generic full stack or front-end developer anymore. It's about developing expertise in high-value niches that companies desperately need. Security engineers making 175 to 250K, AI integration specialists earning 160 to 220K, performance optimization experts commanding 140 to 200K. This is exactly what my student Gabe did. He was working in insurance while finishing college. Instead of trying to learn everything, he focused exclusively on payment processing systems. Within 90 days, he landed a junior role at a major financial company making well over 6 figures. Not because he knew everything, but because he solved one specific, valuable problem better than anyone else. Path number 2, the technical founder. This doesn't mean building the next Facebook. It means identifying specific industry problems and creating focused solutions. SaaS tools for niche industries, specialized automation systems, technical consulting paired with custom software. This is what I'm doing with my startup app, Let's Social. Path number 3, the tech adjacent professional. Some of the highest earners in tech barely code at all. Product managers, 145 to 210K. Technical sales, 120K base plus commissions. Solutions architects, 165 to 230K. People like Jocelyn, a 32-year-old workforce analyst, spent $15,000 on a bootcamp and still couldn't build anything independently. She decided to make a small pivot and immediately start getting offers as a QA tester. Here's what all 3 paths have in common. They're not about blindly generating code with AI. They're about solving specific problems and creating real value. And yes, these successful people all use AI, but they use it as a tool, not as a replacement for understanding. How to actually succeed in tech. So what does this all mean for you if you're trying to break into tech or level up your career? First, understand that AI is a powerful tool, but it's not a substitute for real knowledge. The most valuable skill in tech today isn't coding itself. It's understanding the problems we're solving and how code can solve them. When I rebuilt that mental health app I mentioned earlier, I noticed patterns in what every application needed. Authentication, chat, profile management. Instead of just completing that one project, I built a boilerplate foundation I could reuse. I created organized documentation and file structures that made development faster and more consistent. This approach, identifying common problems and creating reusable solutions, is what drives successful tech careers, not vibe coding. So here's my advice for how to actually succeed in tech in 2025. Learn the fundamentals first. Yes, use AI to help you learn, but make sure you understand what the code does and why it works. Don't just accept AI outputs without reviewing them. Focus on solving real problems. not building generic portfolio projects. Talk to people in specific industries, find out what frustrates them, build solutions that address the actual pain points. Specialize in something valuable. Look at the highest paying roles and work backwards. What skills do they require? What problems do they solve? Focus your learning there. Use AI strategically. It's great for generating boilerplate, exploring approaches, or helping you understand concepts. But always review and understand the code it produces. Build systems, not just skills. Documentation, reusable components, frameworks that solve common problems, these are as valuable as code itself. I get why vibe coding is attractive. When I was starting out, I would have killed for a tool that could generate working code from my descriptions, but I'm actually glad it didn't exist, because the struggle of learning the code made me a better developer. That said, I'm not anti-AI. I use AI coding tools every day. They make me more productive and help me explore ideas faster. But I never accept AI-generated code without understanding what it does and why it works. The irony is that the people who are best positioned to benefit from AI coding tools are those who already know how to code, who can evaluate the AI's output, spot problems, and improve upon it. So if you've been vibe coding, thinking it's your ticket to a tech career, I encourage you to take a step back. Use AI as a learning aid, not a substitute for learning. Focus on understanding, not just output. Because in 2025, the tech industry doesn't need more vibe coding. It needs people who can solve real problems, create real value, and build software that actually works. Not just at demo time, but at scale, in production, under real-world conditions. That's what companies are willing to pay 6 figures for. Not the ability to chat with an AI, but the ability to understand, create, and solve. That's the skill that will future-proof your career, no matter how advanced AI becomes. If you found this valuable, you can subscribe for more no BS tech career advice. And if you're ready to take the next step and learn how to position yourself on the right side of the great AI displacement, check out the link in the description. I break down my complete system for going from 0 to 6 figures in tech without wasting time on outdated bootcamps or CS degrees.